on innovative agricultural practices to address food insecurity in the country. This was the outcome of a high-level meeting between the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, and a delegation from IATA, World Bank, and International Food Policy Research Institute in Abuja. The Vice President said the goal is to increase yield, adding that IATA was in a vantage position to assist not just Nigeria but sub-Saharan Africa in repositioning the agricultural ecosystem. Also, World Bank Practice Manager for Agriculture and Food Global Practice, Mr. Abel Lafafa, expressed IATA's World Bank and other partners' joy over President Tinubu's interest and the quantum of support to revamp agricultural productivity in the country. The just concluded Africa CEO Forum takes a look at critical issues affecting Africa's sustainable development and growth. One of the key themes that dominated the discussions was the urgent need for digital transformation across various sectors, as participants emphasized the importance of embracing new technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, and cloud computing to drive innovation and improve efficiency across Africa. The forum also highlighted the potential of digital solutions to enhance financial inclusion and access to essential services, particularly in underserved communities. Now, let's get talking about this now, and I'm being joined via Zoom by the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of Coronation Group Limited, Mr. Wole Onosoya. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Mr. Onosoya. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much, Tolu. Thank you very much for having me on today. I really appreciate it.
Yes. Now, following the just concluded Africa CEO Forum in Kigali, where you and, of course, other CEOs participated, what are your takeaways?
Wow, I think it was a highly insightful and highly inspiring event. It was great to be among so many people shaping ideas, shaping policies, and also innovating across the continent. One of the key things that hit me, though, or maybe a few things that hit me, was one, as a Nigerian company, we need to expand our vision and start having more of a Pan-African focus in the way that we do business. We also need to increase the size of our businesses, the scale at which we operate. We need to ensure that we operate at the highest standards, comparable to the foreign Western companies. Now, I know that a lot of the banks are already doing that, but for non-bank financial services institutions like Coronation Group, the way for us to achieve these kind of things, I've said very quickly, is through strategic partnerships. Partnerships in countries outside of Nigeria, and also leveraging technology to deploy our solutions broadly, very quickly, in a targeted way that meets the unique needs of Africans across the continent.
A good way to start this conversation, but what kind of innovations are you seeing right now, talking about your own industry?
Sure. So a lot of the innovations around our industry is around technology. So you find people using technology for different types of things, whether it's around making investments more accessible to customers, like we ourselves are doing with Coronation Wealth. It's a Pan-African digital wealth solution targeted at anywhere from low-income earners all the way to high net worth individuals. So you see things around that, leveraging technology a lot, like I said. There are also digital lending, more on the lending side, that is very common these days. And then you see innovations around quickly onboarding customers, just bridging that divide between low-tech users operating in a high-tech environment.
Well, Nigeria at the moment is, of course, pushing for import substitution. Let me say, are players in your industry looking at exporting services?
Sure. So the way I look at it is this. So if you look at, the non-financial services sector, we already have import substitution in fuel refining, for example. You were speaking earlier in your program about agricultural, investments right now targeted at import substitution. When you look at our industry, financial services, import substitution is really around the source of capital. What do I mean by that? So historically, if anytime we want to do major capital investments, we rely on foreign source of capital to do that. Now, when the gains, when the profits, the dividends, the interest income from those investments come in, that money is taken outside of our economy, which creates a gap. It removes that wealth building from our economy. So from my own side, when I think about import substitution, It's really about domesticating the sources of investments. So right now we have a thriving pension industry at over 20 trillion naira, okay, making long-term investments in the economy. So we need to go beyond just the pension industry, more to bring more people, more retail investors, local institutional investors into the formal investment structure, that we can use that to build wealth that stays within our environment. So for me, that is one critical element of import substitution. Now, in terms of exporting, outside of our own shores, Nigeria, it's around, the example I gave earlier with, we have Coronation Wealth. We also have a very innovative company we launched last year called Fiducia. It targets SMEs, providing them, invoice discounting services. So, as we look to expand these types of services across Africa, what happens then is that you create wealth for more Africans in different ways.
Now, let me now ask that. What do you think can be done to improve the financial services, of course, in Nigeria, to be able to contribute more to the growth of the country economically?
Sure. So, look, something that has been worked on a lot over decades is financial inclusion. I would say from a banking standpoint, financial inclusion has gone a long way. You have right now over 61 million people with BVNs. You have payment service banks, that penetrate rural areas and other, less, tech savvy formal sectors of the Nigerian economy. However, there's a huge gap when it comes to the capital market space and insurance, which is where Coronation plays. So what I mean by that is that, look, right now, in terms of the number of individuals that are registered and able to trade stocks, for example, it's in the hundreds of thousands at best. So if you look at 61 million people with BVN compared to, a handful, hundreds of thousands of people that, are playing the capital markets, that's a huge gap. Now, how do you bridge that gap, which is your question, if I speak to that non-banking financial services sector? Number one is, working with regulators, creating the right environment, the right rules, the right structure, partnering with private sector players like ourselves to be able to onboard more people into the capital market space. Just like you have people, with BVN that can open bank accounts, and the BVN is used as an identifier for people to open bank accounts, take loans, and do all manners of things within the banking space. We need to be able to easily onboard people also to play the capital market space. So that's one. Another part of it is literacy, financial literacy. Now, you have millions of Nigerians, like I said, that are outside of the formal investment space. That means they're not taking advantage of, investments in stocks. You have some stocks that have done extremely well over the years. They're not taking advantage of that. They're not taking advantage of fixed income securities because they're not aware of these securities or how to play in that space. Then, and then the third part of course, is technology. Given the kind of demographic that we have in Nigeria, and just given the way technology has grown, it's important for us to have technology that can easily and quickly bring in these people into the investment space, and also for them to transact very, very conveniently. So Coronation, in these three things I've mentioned, for example, Coronation is doing a lot. We're working very closely with our regulators in the capital market space to ensure that we can provide that brings in people efficiently, effectively, while we're not lowering the standards. It will have the appropriate KYC elements that we all need. And then also, if you look at digital literacy, so within financial literacy, if you look within Coronation Wealth, we have the Investment Academy. These are bite-sized investment courses that allows people at different levels of with different levels of education to be able to understand how to invest in the capital markets. We also have a Bankers League that enables them to start trading stocks without using their own capital. So they're not raising capital, but they're understanding how the capital market plays. They can start making what I'll call virtual profits, virtual gains from trading. So these are things that are very important to growing our non-bank financial services sector.
Well, let's look at this from this angle. We've seen another 150 basis points rate hike from the MPC. So my question really will be, how is the high interest rate environment impacting your industry?
So look, it's a two-edged sword, right? From a business standpoint, we have a lot of corporate customers that we rely on. and that help grow our economy as a whole, that we all benefit from, whether it's from employment, whether it's corporate transactions and on like that. What the high interest environment does for them is that it makes borrowing more expensive, right? So it affects their profitability. Some will even decide maybe not to take the loan at all. So there's a challenge there. Now, if we're looking at the retail market, what it does is that it creates an opportunity for people, like I said earlier, the retail market to invest, in fixed income securities that are offering high returns. You have commercial papers right now, that are paying as much as 30% per annum. So you have a situation where, it creates that, so that there's that knowledge gap, like I said. So it doesn't matter how much you are earning, how much you have to invest, whether it's 1,000 naira a month, 5,000 naira a month, or much more than that. You can work with, asset managers that have mutual funds that can invest into these securities. In Coronation, for example, we have Coronation Asset Management, we have Coronation Securities. These are companies that provide that access to retail investors and also corporate investors.
All right, almost finally, before I let you go, what role do you emphasize the public sector or regulators will play as you expand to new markets?
Sure. So look, you always need regulators when you are dealing in the financial services space. They provide that credibility, they provide that assurance and protection for retail investors, and for investors generally. So as we go into new markets, it's important for us, and that's what we do it, to ensure that we have appropriate level of engagement with regulators so that they understand where we're coming from. They understand what we are trying to do in their market, the value we add. So at any point in time, it's very, very important, to work with regulators. It's not an afterthought. It's like the first port of call in entering a new market, and then continuously working with them, as you roll out, as you innovate, to ensure that they're carried along and then you don't have situations of misunderstanding later in life.
Let's wrap up on this note. Building on your track record of innovation, can you share a specific or ambitious goal of Coronation Group as for the future? Perhaps a challenge you're eager to tackle or an opportunity you see on the horizon?
Sure. So let me first start with where we've been. Within Coronation, we have 3 insurance companies. We have this innovative digital claims platform. What that does is that if you buy insurance from Coronation as an individual and you have a claim, you don't have to wait until it's Monday. Let's say you had an accident, you had a loss, you incurred a loss over the weekend or it's after office hours. You can log on and file your claim. You can submit pictures, submit documents, and your process of making that claim starts. You don't have to physically come to an office or even call your agent to make a claim. So these are some of the innovations that we have. I mentioned Coronation Wealth earlier, right? That is, another platform, that we have, right? And we have African ambitions around it. So right now, it's operating in Nigeria. We expect to see it in other countries outside of Nigeria. We have Fiducia. Fiducia, like I said, is our digital invoice discounting platform targeted at SMEs, largely SMEs that provide services to big companies, the big multinationals that you have. It provides them a way to access funding sooner than having to wait for the invoices to be paid, so they can access their revenues quicker. They can reinvest into their business and do that. We have a marine portal that makes it possible for companies to easily buy marine insurance, from the comfort of their offices or their homes. So these are just a few of the things that we have. Now, what does that mean going forward? Like I said, I'm expecting that by the end of next year, we shall have doubled our geographic footprint. So we should be in more African countries than we are in today. We should have doubled that. And our idea is that by the end of next year, we should have added 10 million more customers to the number of customers that we have today. So it's really ambitious, but I'm very confident in the people we have in our companies to be able to achieve this goal.
Thank you so much for your time. I've been speaking to Mr. Wale Onosonya, MD, CEO of Coronation Group Limited. Thank you so much. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking.